Together, so.
All right, so we are here at the Oakland Center for Spiritual Living, and I want to welcome you. My name is Reverend Sally Bartholomew, and I will be your host this evening. And we have a fabulous evening in store. This is the Wednesday Night Oasis, and you might be asking yourself, what is a Wednesday Night Oasis? Well, it is a place between Sundays where we can come together to be spiritually refreshed and uplifted. And most of our Wednesday night services build upon the theme of the previous Sunday. And last Sunday, Reverend Sunshine Michelle introduced us to ideas inspired by the talk title of No Approval Needed. Tonight, practitioner Robyn Olmstead will continue this exploration of the same topic, no approval needed. Now, we do present our Wednesday night services in a satsang style, building off the principles and practices shared during the previous Sunday with the intention that these gatherings be informal, intimate, and interactive. So be ready for Robyn to include us in what's going on this evening. This year's annual theme for 2023 is Living Out Loud. This month, our theme is cultivating authenticity. And this month, we're also celebrating Women's History Month, and Ramadan is continuing through April 20th. So I would like to welcome anyone who is new this evening. Looking at the participants' names, I think I know most of you, but if you navigated yourself to this recording, I want to welcome you if you're new. I want to encourage you to go visit our website, www.oaklandcsl.org, where you'll find a button that says I'm new. Click on that button and you'll be given an opportunity to provide us with your email address. And when you do, you'll be receiving the Village newsletter once a week. And this will tell you all the information about what's happening at our center in the coming weeks. Now, before we get started, I'd like to give you some housekeeping notes. And our speaker this evening has asked that you can keep your videos on during the service, but please mute your audio so that it doesn't interrupt her speaking. So in the background, our Zoom team will be muting you if necessary. So stay tuned all the way through the end of tonight's service for special and important announcements that I'll be providing later on. I think we're ready to get started, and I'd like to introduce you to our speaker this evening. She is Robyn Olmstead. She is a practitioner serving at the Oakland Center for Spiritual Living, and she is also the co-chair of the CSL Centers for Spiritual Living Practitioner Council. I think we're in for a treat this evening. And as we do with every organized event at the center, we open with prayer. So Robyn, please open us in prayer and go ahead with your talk.
Okay, thank you, Reverend Sally. Welcome, everyone. So let's just, if you're comfortable closing your eyes, let's close our eyes and just take a breath. And just feeling that breath all the way in our heart, just being so grateful. So grateful for the very breath that breathes us, knowing that it is truly spirit, that it is truly God, the universe, by any name, it is that space of love and possibility and acceptance. And just knowing that, I know that we are aligned with that breath that says, yes, I know that it is in me, as me, and through me. And I know that it's the same is true for everyone on this Zoom platform, as well as anyone listening after the fact, anyone joining us, and even those that don't. I know that they are feeling this vibration of love, that they are feeling and knowing that the word being spoken tonight is truly a co-creation of the divine with each and every one of us. For I know that tonight, every heart on this call is fed and it hears what needs to be heard, or it speaks what needs to be spoken. And I know that as we do this, we are just anchoring this love and peace and knowingness on the planet. So I'm blessing this talk. I'm blessing this time. I'm blessing all that have said yes and been here in service, knowing that we are truly dedicated to the transformation and growth of this world and truly creating a world that works for everyone. So for this and the more, I'm just grateful and thankful. And I just allow it to be and say, and so it is. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, welcome. So I'm probably going to start off in an untraditional way by allowing you to speak earlier than later. Because when you hear no approval needed, what comes up for you? What does that really mean? Do you resonate with that? Do you say, what the heck is she talking about? Or what comes up for you? And you can unmute and let me know. Hey, I'm going to call on you all because I know you all. All right, Bunny. What?
Margot, go ahead. You're first.
Okay, Margot.
Oh, I don't have to be first. I just feel like it means I'm free to be something, or I'm free to do something. I don't have to go through any hoops. There's nothing in my way.
Okay, great. Nothing in your way. I'll second that. Bonnie.
For me, it just means I can show up just as I am, keeping with our theme of authenticity, that I can just be authentically me and not have to worry about what anybody thinks. That's what it means to me.
Great. Constance.
Well, I had a slightly different a take on it when I first heard it, which was like, well, who needs to tell me that that there's no approval needed?
Great. Great. Yeah. So you felt a little combative with it, right?
Yes, exactly.
How unusual. Judith.
It just makes me feel joyful because that is not how I grew up.
Great.
That's not how before coming into Science of Mind, I was still looking for it. And it feels like freedom that I'm at the door. I'm at the door ready to step into my freedom with that. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Judith.
Nikki, go ahead.
I'm sorry?
You're muted.
Well, what Constance says, I aspire to what Constance says. I grew up a people pleaser. And so the idea of no approval necessary is like, I should just put that on my mirror to remind myself that whatever who said about authenticity, I get to just do what feels right to me at any moment. And that's powerful for me. And I'm moving in that direction.
Great. Elena, I see your hand.
I think Judith was before me.
Judith, your hand were in the flowers. I'm sorry.
Yeah, in the flowers. Well, what I thought of right away was that quote, that what other people think of me is none of my business.
Yeah.
I like that one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And I was going to say exactly the same thing. And somebody else says in that freedom, it's not just the freedom to do what you want, but the freedom from spending all that energy trying to figure out what is going to get everyone's approval.
Right, right. Okay, good, good. Is your hand back up, Judith?
No, I meant to put it down. I was trying to lower it.
Okay.
There.
All right. Okay, great, great. So, all right. So when I started thinking about the topic, I was back and forth with it. I was like, it almost felt like a trick question, right? Because of course we know those of us that have been in classes or studying or practitioners or on a track of learning new thought, metaphysical things, we know that we are whole, perfect, and complete, and that we are the co-creators with spirit. We know that. And we know that there's only one thing happening. And yet it doesn't always feel that way because we're human, right? We're having a human experience. And so as I started to think about it, I started to think sort of about what Judith Franglas was saying, that, you know, that's not everyone's experience. Not everyone feels like as light about what has gone on before in their life. And I started thinking about, as we come into this world as a baby, as a child, you know, some of us may bring some baggage into this with us. We may bring in generational baggage or not, but we begin to get messages from everywhere around us. And as a baby, as a child, we're constantly being taught and told how to do things. And we're constantly moving in that space of learning new things. So, you know, when we learn to walk, or it's like, oh, good job, you know, or when we learn to talk and say, somebody says, dada, and then all of a sudden it's brilliant. They said, father, dada, you know, and we get all this kind of approval, and, you know, or not. I mean, how many times have you seen the kids in the grocery store getting scolded for what they're not doing right and how they should be seen and not heard, and all of those kind of things. And we begin to take on other aspects, which, not that they're intentional by a parent or society, but we begin to take on what we're given. And so it has been said that there are experiments that show that babies can feel shame as early as 18 months. 18 months in. So we begin to take on things as a baby, right? That might not be what always serves us later on in life. Now, I know we believe that everything serves us in the moment. So I'm not negating any of that. I'm just saying this is what studies show. And they also show that before we experience, people feel shame before they feel guilt. And guilt and shame play a big part in when we start feeling like we need approval, right? So as we move through this, we take on stories and things that may stop us. And I think for tonight, for the purpose of tonight, I would say that it's not about approval. There is no approval needed except our own. Because in order for us to move down this journey, we need to let go of the stories and what doesn't serve us in order to stand in that space. Like many of you have said, Margot said it, or feeling lighter and freedom and joyous and all of those things that the concept of no approval necessary allows us to feel. So I think throughout our life, we've taken on different stories. I know I have anyway. I'll speak for myself, obviously. And I think it stops me from being who I am. I think back to a time truly when I was in elementary school and I had an art teacher. And I was a very artistic kid. For those of you who don't know, I'm a very creative person. And I was very artistic. I loved to paint and draw and play and anything I could put my hands into and create something else. That's what I wanted to do. And I was in 4th or 5th grade and I was in class and I was making a paper mache hippo. Okay, it was the cutest hippo you could ever imagine. And I went up to my art teacher, whose name was Sarge, so you can tell what's coming. And I said, look, and she said, yeah, it's not as good as Coco or Ronnie's, who were 2 other kids in the class. And I was like, okay. And I was done with art. I literally, that's had been my MO, was to pick up my toys and go. So I would not do art for years. My mom was like, could you please take an art class? Just add art in there. I'm like, no, drama, dance, anything else that was creative, I would do. But I was like, no art, no art. And when I finally did take an art class in high school, I talked the teacher into doing a play. So we did a play and we created the sets. But I took this story on. My point is, I took this story on for years and years and years. And literally, I just couldn't do art no matter what. It was so stressful for me. And I'd go to, like, I finally realized one time I went to like Color Me Mind with my friends, and everybody was saying, oh, it's such a great time and it's so fun. And they were painting teapots and cups and plates. And I'm sitting there totally stressed out with a little plate. And I looked around and everybody was done. And I'm painting a globe with people on it, holding hands and their little faces. And there was no joy in it for me because it was so much about the details and getting the details done. And I was like, okay, I get it. I get it. You know, it was a moment where I could truly go, this isn't fun because of that experience, and it doesn't have to be like this. So I ask you, if you can think of a story or a time or something that you may hold on to, something in your past, something in a more, a closer time, whatever works for you. But is there a story that you've been holding on to that doesn't allow you to give yourself approval to be who you are? Is there something you can think of? And if you've got something in your head, we're gonna work on getting through that. So what is the BS that you've held on to where you cut off your self-approval? BS being belief system. What is in your belief system that keeps you playing small? That tells us we're not enough, that tells you you're not enough? Is there anyone out there that's ready to let go of any of those? You can just raise your hand. Oh, thank you, Nikki. Okay, I see some hands. So that's what I would like to do tonight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through a little process. If you might want to have a pen and paper, or you might just hold it in your head, whatever works for you. And this is a process that I actually learned from Reverend Martha Quintana, who was a minister down in New Mexico. And we're just going to move through some of these questions and see how that works for you. So now you're all of you on the call, I know, have been in classes, and you're in New Thought, so you know we're gonna end up on this back at ourselves. So let's just breathe. Let's take a breath. And I'm gonna ask you, does everyone have a situation in their head? Okay, great. The first question I'm gonna ask you is it possible? Could you give up what you think it should look like? What you think that situation should have looked like? What you think maybe it should have felt like, or any of those kind of feelings. Could you let that go? And mind you, I know some of these stories have been going for years and years and years. I have frequent flyer miles on my stories, so I know that it might be hard to let things go. So could you give up what you think that situation might look like? And then I'm going to ask you, could you give up what you think it needs? What does it mean? Does it have to be anything? Or could it mean something other than you thought it meant? Or what if it doesn't mean anything at all? Just take that in. And here comes a doozy. What do I stand to gain by telling this story? What do I stand to gain? What is it that keeps this story serving me? And finally, I would ask you, could you give up who you think you are? Who you think you are? And how that plays into that story. If we can let ourselves be unattached to the outcome, then nothing can stop us. Nothing vexes us. Nothing blocks our way. Nothing blocks our vision. So just take a moment to finish that up. If there's anything you want to jot down. And I think does anyone want to share what that felt like, or anything that came up for them? Are you all still in it? Okay. Take a moment to finish that up. And Constance.
Constance,
I
yeah.
just wanted to share, Robin, that in the 7th grade, my paper mache was the purple people eater. And I loved it, and it had so much fun, and I took it home and no one paid any attention to it. But, you know, I mean, I could get into that story, but what I realized when you went through that is how much of my work I've done, because I couldn't find a story that really had that charge anymore. So
Great.
that was many, many years of practitioner sessions and everything else. So thank you.
Thank you. That's great. That's so funny, the purple people eater.
So maybe the purple people eater and the hippo could get together sometime.
Right? I think there's so many similarities, Constance, between you and I. It's
I know.
crazy. But yeah, because my hippo was purple, first of all. And it was very important that it be purple. So Nikki, I see your hand.
Nikki, yeah.
Yeah, I thought of a time, my mother was an artist and I was a teacher, and I always had done crafts, but they were definitely crafts and not art. And I think it was my first year teaching at Northgate, and the year before I got into teaching ceramics. That's not when she said it, but no, it was. My brother gave me all this photo equipment. He gave me a camera as a Christmas present, and then he gave me his entire dark room and all the chemicals, and I started doing photography, and I started getting good at it. And my mother, was talking on the phone, and she said, well, what have you been up to? And I said, oh, I've been taking all these pictures and developing them, and I've gotten so that I'm good at it, and I've started to take some really nice pictures. And she said, and this was actually a moment of liberation for me, not as stopping me, but she said, oh, well, that's very good, but that's not what you do. Teaching is what you do. And it was like, I'm the artist and you're the teacher, and don't get on my turf. And when I heard that, it was just like, oh, this is what's been going on my whole life. And it was kind of a liberation, but it also has a really rich opportunity to be a victim story. This is how my mother treated me my whole life, and this is why I'm so messed up about it. If you tell me I'm an artist, I say, no, I'm a craftsperson, and I don't care if I'm an artist or a craftsman. I am joyful with clay. But the story, it just opened up. It's like becoming aware of one of your limiting stories.
Yeah.
Thinking, oh, that's not true. I can make good photographs. So I'm complete.
Thank you, Nikki. And I invite you, just in hearing what you're saying, I invite you. So you said artist or craftsperson, you don't care. It doesn't, it doesn't define you, kind of thing. And because you're making that differentiation between artist and craftsperson, but not making the differentiation, I invite you to just try on being an artist. Be an artist.
Why is an artist better than a craftsperson? Why do you want me to be an artist?
Well, you don't have to be. I'm just saying, you said I'm a craftsperson as if it was different. So I'm asking, I'm not saying there's any difference. I'm saying if there's a difference, because it sounded like there was a difference, then, because I think that whatever makes you feel empowered, or whatever brings that color and that joy to your life, it's just, I think just trying on different things. Like I remember when I took my first screenwriting class, and the teacher said, from this day on, just say you're a screenwriter. And I was like, oh dear God, but I haven't done anything, but it was like, Not, well, I'm a waiter, but I da 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 or da 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 da. So it doesn't, you do what you do you, but I'm just saying. If there's a difference, because that's what I thought I heard, then, just to play around with it. It's all good. You're creative. And you show that in every way,
Yeah.
in every cell and fiber of your being. I know that without having even seen your artwork.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I do have trouble with the words, and I'm very happy saying I'm a really creative person. And I also think it's almost like being an artist is being thin and being a craftsman is being fat, and that there's a judgment that being thin is always better. And if you're limiting yourself to being a craftsman, you should go for it and be an artist. And I don't feel like I'm limiting myself by being a craftsman. I feel like I'm being what I want to be. And if I just say I'm a very creative person and I love clay, that makes me happy. I don't want to say one or the other, but I don't want to have to be labeled like, oh, you can be this better thing if you go for it.
right.
Is what it feels like to me,
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm complete.
I hear you.
Thank
I
you.
hear you.
Alice,
Alice.
you have your hand up, right?
Oh, yeah, I did. Let me do my job. I know for me, a lot of my limited beliefs happened when a lot of the situations happened as a child, and your reactions had consequences. Like my reactions had a consequence. And so my response was usually, well, okay, I don't care. My mother and my sister, one of their biggest jokes was when they would go places and they would see things, and they say, oh, Alice can do that. Alice can even do that better. And then they would say, but I don't want it. Do you want it? No, I don't want it. And they would be coming back and telling me, yeah, Alice, we saw this. You can do that, but we don't want it. And it was like, I don't know, that's just one of my examples, but there were always negative repercussions to my responses. And so I didn't have a response, but I had a feeling, I was internalizing that, I wasn't enough, or that I could do many things and it still wouldn't be enough. They wouldn't want it, or they wouldn't like it. And I think that I have kind of taken that on as an adult when I'm in situations where there aren't the repercussions of, you getting in trouble, or you have restrictions put on you, or, just, all of these things, or don't talk back to me, or, or any of that kind of stuff. As an adult, my same protective responses continued. And so now, and throughout my entire adult life, you're thinking, well, why are you having that response? Or why aren't you sharing? Or why don't you do that? And it was that it wasn't going to be good enough, or it wasn't enough. And so why do that? So that's one of my responses. But then also, it's like when you said you're number 4, could you give up who you think you are? And I put, then what? I mean, yeah, I'm still working on it anyway. But I think I'm complete.
Thank you. Thank you. I think that's beautiful. And I think it speaks to another thing, Ally, I'll call on you in a second. I think it speaks to, you know, when the topic came up about approval needed, it speaks to, you know, are you an approval seeker? And I was like, well, I don't know. Do I seek approval? And I had to really sit with it. And I had to think about, like, I mean, there's plenty of times I will ask for input, but I see it as collaboration a lot of the times. And like, I think it's really what you said, Alice, that was so important, I think, is the way that you're witnessing your behavior now. You're watching yourself and being able to identify, oh, look, this is based on an old decision, or, oh, look, you know, and able to discern, like, you know, am I saying this? You didn't say this, but, you know, things like, am I saying this just to fit in? Or am I saying this because I mean, or, you know, seeking approval in different ways like that. So I think that's brilliant. That's great. Thank you. Elena.
I have a serious comment, but first I have to share my favorite no approval needed comment, which is I was in my 20s and went home one morning. I'm in my parents' house in the living room. I'm doing yoga. I'm listening to Gregorian chants. And my mother walks through the living room, turns around and says, if you keep listening to that weird music, you will never get a husband. I was going to kind of jump the shark, you know. My serious comment was, Constance says something about how nice it was to have trouble finding a story. And it really is nice when we have done a lot of work so that some of those stories have lost their power. But I also know, and I'm experiencing this now, every time we go into a major transition, those stories can come up again. And so now I'm in transition, and just this morning, the last day or two, I was noticing one of those old stories is like, oh yeah, that's back. But it is an opportunity to work on it on an even deeper level. So I hate it. But anyway, that's all.
Thank you.
I was going to say that's nice, but I'm not there yet. I just hate it.
Oh, I understand that. I think many of us feel that way. Yeah. Anybody? Oh, Bonnie.
I want to say thanks, Ally, for saying that about having done your work in so many different areas, that I'm finding myself that some of the questions you ask, I just don't wrestle with them anymore. And there was one story that I was going to share tonight, but I thought, why? Why share that story? That only brings up all emotion, all the baggage. So that story is gone. But today I had an experience where I had said, I really, my whole desire is to be a teacher. Finally, just landing in that place of, yes, I want to be a teacher. Then I can think back to that old story that would help say, oh, no, you can't. So I really want to be a teacher. But today I thought, you know, I'm really going to expand myself with my Spanish. I am going to actually take a Science of Mind class that is taught in Spanish. And I said, I'm going to ask them, I'm going to take this class, but the first 4 classes, please don't call on me. Don't call on me. Let me get comfortable with, you know, trying to figure out the right words. But anyway, as soon as I said that, I saw the person that teaches the Spanish class. And I go to her and I tell her, and then I say to her, I want to keep this conversation in Spanish. I tell her I want to take the class. And she said, oh my goodness, Bonnie, yes. And she said, you can even help teach the class. And I thought, what? I just said, I just want to sit quietly and take the class. But on the other hand, I had said I wanted to learn. And this is what I'm going to offer to everyone. I think I'm in a little bit of a different situation. I am in a location that nobody knows me. I don't need anybody's, I can show up. and be anyone that I want to be. And I love what Alice said about, and then what? And then I can explore those areas that before I would have been held back by those old stories. So for me, asking and knowing that I can be anyone I want to be. And as Constance says, whose opinion are we trying to get? I mean, whose approval? And it's my own approval. So I'm giving myself that, stamp of approval to be me and to do what it is that I desire. So anyway, I just want to offer that if you really want to give up who you think you are, move to another country. You can do it right there in Oakland.
Thank you, Bonnie. Thank you.
Yeah.
Margot. You're muted.
I had the art teacher that said, that is a wonderful dog, except I was not drawing a dog. So it took into my 50s to want to do art again until I had a wonderful Angelese area in a creativity course. And so I'll just say thank you to you, Constance. You come full circle because you give all the rest of us a chance to just play with complete and utter safety. So I don't even see her on there anymore, but something's covering it up. But the story I was going to tell that hasn't gone away from me, I was a little kid sitting at the card table in the living room, listening to this radio program, The Shadow Knows. You have to be very old to know that program. Oh, Nikki knows it. Okay, Judith. You do, Allie? Oh. So anyway, my dad comes in and I'm working on some project on the card table and he says, you're going to end up in jail. And even to this day, I mean, that's primal fear stuff. I didn't even really have a story about it. But every time if a policeman pulls up behind me, I clench. I feel all the fears, that there, of course, there were the Vietnam protest years too, but it's a very basic fear I have of law enforcement. But one of my daughters introduced me to a Buddhist teaching, the second arrow. I don't know if any of you know that teaching, but it says that the first arrow is going to create reactivity. The second arrow we have choice on, that we don't have to make it mean something negative about us. So I kind of like it when I have consciousness or awareness that the first arrow has landed in me, that I'm in a story or that I'm in fear. And I feel like if I wanted to play basketball, I'd have to find a gym. So if I want to be wholehearted, healed person, as Brene Brown says, I need the first arrow so that I can reparent myself. I can say, just calm down. You've done nothing wrong. The policeman has got some other job to do, Margot. And, little by little over time, it dilutes. So I like having a relationship to the negative stories. And I think maybe the most powerful conscious thing we have is deciding to not make it mean anything, actually, not just negative, but anything. When our stories pop up, we're in the gymnasium learning to play basketball. So anyway, I probably will have policemen till the day I die in my consciousness.
Beautiful, Margot. Thank you. Thank you. And that's a perfect segue I think that approval seeking, it shouldn't be confused with asking for advice or participating in collaboration. Because I think the input of others, it's necessary and valuable. But the thing is the motivation behind why we're asking. That's what's vital. So, of course, we all want love. That's the basic need, right? And when we get love, we usually, not always, feel as if someone has approved of us. I mean, I remember as a child, my mom saying, no matter what you do, I'll always love you. It doesn't matter. And I of course would test that in many ways and give her pop quizzes like, well, what if I killed somebody? You know, she'd be like, still love you. It's like, what if I decided I was going to be the garbage collector as a job? Would still love you, you know? So there's that unconditional love that we have. But then it's just, I think if the sole purpose is for approval of others, then we open to the doors to self-doubt and hurt feelings. Our happiness or disappointment shouldn't hinge on someone's opinion. Or we leave ourselves open to like vulnerability and constant uncertainty. So I think that approval, the most important approval you can have is your own. And when we trust our inner voice, and then everything in life presents an opportunity to examine our truth and grow. And when we trust our inner voice, then we're not seeking input from the outside. So I leave you with that. And I leave you most importantly with what Margot said about letting go of the meaning behind words and allowing approval to not always sound like we're trying to get something, but knowing that we already have that within us. And I thank you for sharing this Wednesday night platform with me. Thank you. Reverend Sally.
All right, Robyn, thank you so much for this very interactive session this evening. Everyone, please give her some love. We've got the reaction buttons you can use. This has been a really rich and interactive session. And I will encourage you, if you want to keep the questions so that you could dive deeper into these questions that Robyn's provided, I typed them into the chat. You are welcome to save the chat and do the work. All right, Peter, I think we're ready for the announcements this evening. All right, I'm not seeing Peter. Constance, are you still on?
Well, Peter's there.
Wait a minute.
Oh, there he is. Thank you. All right, hold on, everyone. We do have some announcements this evening. There we go. All right. So this time that we're in right now is a continuation of Ramadan, and it'll go until April 20th, I believe. It may be 22nd. And in the month of March, we are continuing to celebrate Women's History Month. And as you've seen throughout the month, we've had some fabulous women speakers, including Robyn this evening. Now, next Sunday, April 2nd, Reverend Catherine Sachs will be speaking on vulnerability, defining, and aligning. And this will be our first talk for the month of April, where we will explore the power of vulnerability. Sunday service begins meditation at 10 a.m. and the service itself starts at 10:30 a.m. And now next Wednesday, practitioner Christopher Brown will follow up from the Sunday conversation and continue the discussion on vulnerability, defining, and aligning. Meditation is at 6:30 p.m. and the service begins at 7 p.m. on Zoom. Coming up on April Fool's Day, our own emeritus practitioner, Richard Robinson's memorial will be taking place. It'll begin at 3 p.m. and following the service, we'll have a special ritual in the gratitude garden that you're invited to participate in, and then we'll be sharing food together. Please come and celebrate Richard. On Sunday, April 2nd, after service, beginning at 1 p.m., the COM group will be meeting, and you'll need to make sure that you get the new Zoom link. It's available online. The bookstore is filled with new merchandise. Check it out. For April, the bookstore is featuring the book, The Power of Vulnerability by Brene Brown, and they're having a 30% off sale on all gemstones and Tree of Life material. Please go in and shop. Earth Day is April 22nd, and the Loving Stewards of Mother Earth Ministry are inviting you to join them on Saturday, April 15th, assuming there won't be a rain day, from 10 to 12 at Arrowhead Marsh Garriston staging area. They'll do a cleanup, do some bird watching, and just enjoy fellowship in nature. Check the village news and the events page for more details on this event. And next we have our contact team. So this slide has been updated and the information on the website has been updated to show our new board president, Maureen French. And if you have any information that you're curious about, reach out to these individuals and I'm sure that you can get the information you need. And as always, for information on all that's going on at your Oakland Center for Spiritual Living, visit our website, www.oaklandcsl.org, and sign up for our weekly newsletter. You can also follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook for special updates and content that you'll only find by liking and subscribing to us in these platforms. Please like and subscribe to us today. So that's all my announcements for this evening, and now we'll move into our giving time. And of course, we have our affirmation. I encourage you to go within, to consider what financial resources you are giving to the center, and say with me the giving affirmation. Joyously, I give with an attitude of abundance, knowing that as I give, I do receive. And there are several ways for you to give your donation via the website. You can click on the donate icon. You can use credit card, by mail, by Zelle, by text, or during the Sunday service, you can drop your donation in the basket. So that's all we have for this evening. And I want to thank everyone for participating this evening. It has been a rich and interactive session. I want to especially thank our speaker this evening, Robyn Rice Olmstead. Thank you so much for taking us through this spiritual journey of enlightenment and recognizing that no approval is needed. I also want to thank the behind the scenes team. This is Peter Gum, Alice Herndon, Constance Chapman, and myself. It has been an honor and a privilege to serve all of you this evening. So thank you very much. I'm going to turn it back over to Robyn for our closing prayer.
Okay. So just taking this moment to truly be in gratitude, to truly know that there is only one thing happening on the planet, and that is the unique, beautiful, glowing, loving presence of the divine. And I'm knowing that it breathes each and every one of us, that with each and every breath, we just remember who and whose we are, that we breathe into that and we know that just having another breath is the stamp of approval from the God, knowing that we move forward, knowing that we are right on purpose, right on target, and that we are all just dancing, singing, and loving or the divine. So I know that we take that out into our week. We take that into our daily practices. We stand in that space of celebrating that is the Most High. We bless our community and we know that it is done. And so we just allow it to be with great gratitude and love. And so it is.
So it is.
Oh, it is.
Amen.